Start.
Ready.
Yeah. Okay. Hello and welcome to Travel as a Tool for Mental Wellbeing Beyond Relaxations. Thank you so much for joining us from different platforms. We have people watching live from 62 countries. We have many wonderful speakers today, so without the further ado, I give the word to my dear colleague Sahara, who has prepared a wonderful program for us today. Sahara, please.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to all of our incredible speakers. We see a lot of new faces, a lot of familiar faces. I'm Sahara Rose Devor. I'm the founder and CEO of the Travel Coach Network, global platform that trains, educates, and certifies travel coaches around the world. We've decided to join forces with Reza at the Institute of Tourism to bring this topic to light. There's so many perspectives and angles when it comes to travel being used as a tool for our mental well-being. So we decided to put together this wonderful panel of speakers who have such diverse backgrounds and diverse insights and perspective and expertise on this topic. So I'm just as excited as you guys are to hear from everyone today. We're going to get some deep dive into some of our conversations about psychology of travel and wellness. So let's get started here. First, we're going to hear from our speakers. If you can just briefly introduce yourselves. Tara, would you like to start?
Sure. Yeah, thank you for having us. And my name is Tara Bush. I'm the founder and CEO of Conscious Travel Collective. We design custom tailor-made itineraries with slow travel in mind. So, trying to not only reduce the different destinations, but kind of focusing on a particular region and embracing some curiosity for, a more kind of immersive, locally based experience. It's important, for travelers, I think, to be received as a guest that, can be more open to the places they're visiting. And a lot of that has to do with the wellness topics we're going to get into. So I'm excited to share more. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Thanks, Tara. Alyssa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alyssa of Solo Girl Wanders. I help women stop waiting and say yes to themselves and some of the transformations that they're seeking by using solo travel to get out of that comfort zone that transformation sometimes forces us. I sometimes say travel is like soul work with a suitcase. And I love helping women say yes by just doing it scared and not waiting until the fear goes away. With a background in, social work and psychology, and as a travel coach, I love talking about this topic. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Alyssa. Sonia.
Hi everyone, my name is Sonia. I am the founder of Travel Awakens. I help travel professionals who want to build a business that feels more aligned, more meaningful, but they don't know necessarily how to move beyond the way they've been doing things. It's a pleasure to be here, and I want to thank the organizers and the panelists and all the people involved. Thanks.
And how about you, Georgie? Dorji?
Hi, yes, hello from Bhutan, and I'm Dorji Dradul. And of course, really honored to be with this very great panel here. And also, I'm sure, as Reza has just informed, I think there's a lot watching online. And I presently call myself as a creativity catalyst. And for me, mindfulness is creativity. So I'm actually trying to bring mindfulness through creativity in tourism because for almost 5 years, I've been leading the tourism in my country, Bhutan. So I've been heading the National Tourism Organization. And I don't know, maybe later on I'll get an opportunity to talk about our tourism here. And our tourism is what we call as popularly known as high value, low volume. So which I think is very much relevant to this the topic of our webinar here today. So yeah, excited to talk more about it later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And how about you, Jake?
Yeah, thank you, Sahara. It's wonderful to be here. I'm Jake. I'm the CEO of the Transformational Travel Council, and our work is rooted in really empowering travel to shift our worldview, assumptions, and our identity. And we do that through education, transformative education at the intersection of experience strategy and regenerative practice. And so we've got our signature experience program with hundreds of alumni around the world. We also work in the consulting space across the industry on adopting experience strategy around transformation. And then we have a global community of practice that we connect virtually, and we do fun stuff like going on pilgrimage and go on retreats and connect and collaborate around how can we make the most impact we can in travel and tourism.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jake. And Dr. Sika? You here with us?
Yeah, she was here. Dr. Sika?
You're on mute.
Please unmute yourself. You are muted.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
Once again, I represent the European Spa Association. I'm the president of the umbrella organization. In our organization, we have 20 European countries as a members, plus more than 1,000 medical and spa resorts in Europe. Our main focus and mission is to promote the prevention and prophylaxis using natural healing resources, such as natural mineral waters, healing climate. And together with the Institute for Tourism, we signed an agreement to develop a project, Women in Wellbeing. So, Dr. Reza, thank you very much for the invitation to join this platform. And regards from the spa capital of Bulgaria, I'm coming from Bulgaria. I live in Germany and in Brussels.
I'm James O'Sullivan, part of the Apollo Academy team, been selling for a very long time. Love sales.
Someone is mixing me.
Sorry about that.
No problem. So regards from Bulgaria, and I'll be very curious, and I'm available to answering questions regarding the topic Europe, our USP, and how we can support you. Because last point, our organization do support governments, do support local authorities, also NGOs to strengthen their role and to promote the healthy lifestyle.
Wonderful. Well, thank you to our speakers. We do have another speaker, Dr. Burgett, but she will be joining us in a little bit. But let's get started here today. The first topic is going to be centered around the psychology of travel. So beginning with the foundation on why travel affects us all, we often feel different when we travel. We don't always unpack that why, though. There's something happening cognitively and emotionally when we step out of our comfort zone and our everyday environments. Even a study published in the Journal of Applied Research of Quality of Life showed that the highest spike in happiness happened during the planning phase of a vacation. So it goes to show just how mentally impactful travel can be. So how about Dorji? Can you share your perspective on that connection of the mental wellness benefits of travel, or the psychology of why we even travel in the first place?
Very much. Yeah, thank you very much. And before that, I also like to take this opportunity in informing everyone here, in partnership with Dr. Reza, we are also working on starting happiness and a mindfulness center based in Bhutan. So through that center, of course, we are going to organize planning for a big mindfulness conference in 2027. And of course, through this center, we'll be also organizing some online sessions related to this subject. Well, coming to this topic, is very much connected. As I said, in Bhutan, for the last 50 years, we have been following a very unique kind of a tourism approach of policy, which we known as high value, low volume. Now, of course, 50 years before when we started this, of course, we really didn't know what was happening there. But now today, after 50 years, we see that this policy of high value, low volume is definitely what we are now all talking about. Basically, travel as a tool for mental being. I mean, that is because when we talk about low volume, we are not just also talking about the number itself. And also when you talk about high value, we are also not just talking about the money that's involved. So basically here when we put together this high value and low volume together, there actually basically we are talking about the well-being of the travelers. So in essence, what we are also saying is, well, through this policy, we have even tried to change the nomenclature, the words that we use. So in fact, after we have been really trying to put those into practice, we have been even trying to deliberately not use the word tourist when you talk about travelers, because tourists, again, it sounds so kind of a commercial and business like. So when we talk about a visitor or traveling, we always talk about a visitor, guest, or at the most maybe a traveler. So even the tourist word itself is something that we are not encouraging. So for us, especially in Bhutan, by your policy, when we talk about travel, it is definitely beyond just a travel. It is about going inside yourself. When you are in travel, so you are trying to go explore yourself, you as an individual. I mean, what is there, what is your essence of being, what is yeah. So basically you are trying to learn more about yourself, going into the depth of your understanding. So it is definitely beyond the travel just itself. So it's all about the mental well-being when you talk about travel. So maybe I think I'll stop here right now.
Well, thank you on that. And Sonia, why does stepping outside of the routine have such a strong effect on how we feel?
Yeah, I love this question. Is one of the reasons actually I named my business the way it's named, because I believe routine keeps our brain sleeping. So when we travel, we break these patterns of that the routine creates. This is in the brain is creating neural pathways when we repeat the same every day. So we are in our routine and we do the same things every day. We wake up and we see the same people and we do the same tasks. To save resources, the brain is creating these neural pathways, which actually it's trying to save resources, but at the same time is putting us in autopilot. So we are not actually making decisions the way we think we are making, because we are more in this autopilot mode. So when we travel, we change environment. We cannot predict anymore what the day will be, because it's not going to be based in our past. It's something new environment, new people. We are stepping away from this routine, and suddenly our brain is like, okay, this is new. I have to pay attention here. I cannot go business as usual. And suddenly I have to make different choices. I am in a new situation, so I have to be present. And that's what travel helps us, doing. And I believe many people see travel also as a way of feeling more free, because it liberates us from these expectations and the roles that we have in our routine, in our daily responsibilities. So it frees us from all these expectations and these obligations, and it gives us lots of possibilities. So there is infinite possibilities when we are in a different environment, because we are not in this autopilot.
Yeah. And Jake, what is your take on the psychology of travel and why we travel as human beings?
Yeah, I mean, why we travel. I mean, I think that part of the beauty of travel is that opportunity to explore the why in itself, right? And being fully open to the potential and opportunity that travel gives us to explore, our own inner awareness, to break patterns of behavior, to expand our worldview, and I think that the travel today, however, sort of has diminished a lot of that, because it's been sort of shifting into this place of service, right, and being order takers and entitlement, and I think that sort of it's brought us away from the original sort of roots of why we travel. You go back into millennia, and it's rooted in rites of passage, and it's in quest, and it's in pilgrimage, right? And it's typically you're setting out on a journey to overcome some sort of challenge, right? To identify who you are, but also who you want to become. So at some depth, I think travel is should always be around that, right? That opportunity to step out of your comfort zone, as Sonia mentioned, and open up to what's possible in your life, and open up to how you can engage others more thoughtfully, and how you can return from trips and really apply this learning, these perspectives, this wisdom, this enlightenment that travel seems to bring us all when we're able to travel with a little bit more intention, mindfulness, and integrity.
Yeah, and we're going to dive deeper into transformation and mindfulness as well in a little bit here. And Alyssa, a question for you. Does is all travel beneficial, or does intention play a role in whether travel actually supports our well-being? What's your take on
Have a misnomer that all travel is beneficial, and maybe there's an element of it. And I think like our title today around, moving beyond just like the escapism, sometimes there is a benefit of stepping away from, anxiety, busyness, stress, etc., to escape. But the problem that I typically see, especially when I'm working with women in like a corporate setting, is when they return back to their daily life, nothing has changed, and they're just back into like Sonia said, the routine. So I really do believe that intention has to be a dominating force in the way we travel, but also the like integration. What are the ways that you want to bring this back? So I just led a group of women to Guatemala, and one of the women was telling us in the beginning her intention was to bring color in her life. She felt her life was beige. And as we went through activities, she was really being mindful about the activities that were going to bring her color: dance classes, cooking classes, spices, these types of things. And when we came back, I asked her, how do you want to integrate that? Otherwise, it was a trip and a return. And she said, I am dedicated to doing one new thing a week that makes that feeling of aliveness come back, that color. And so I think the intention is huge. Otherwise, we kind of just escape as a numbing agent, which we all do with, anything, any substance, any social media, any TV. So there has to be an intention there.
Yeah, and that goes into my next question for you, Tara. How is intentional travel different from avoidance-based travel? So, or in other words, running away from our problems, right? We often talk about travel as an escape, but what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways that we can approach, like Jake was saying, with the idea of a pilgrimage, some kind of an internal examination. Maybe it's setting ourselves up on a challenge, the things that Sonia was describing, that novelty of being in a new area where you're always challenging your brain. So intention can be navigated in a lot of different ways through a lot of different lenses. But if you have a clear mindset, a clear goal, then it can really serve as an anchor for your trip. So, for example, if someone says, I really just want to embrace the culture or embrace the language, well, that's a wonderful North Star for them to have as they're making decisions along the way that can really root them in what they want to get out of this time. It's very, very easy to get distracted and go in a lot of different directions and try and make your trip all encompassing. You want to see this and that and all these things, or we get fed a list of expectations that what we should do with our time from things we're reading or seeing on social media, or, our good friends went there, but maybe they had a different intention than you do. And so by rooting yourself into a particular intention, you can really stay true to yourself. You can stay on track, and hopefully you can go a little bit deeper, get a little bit more meaning out of that. But I think that the best part of having an intention is it really keeps you into that kind of an anchor. And ideally, when you return, you can have a little transition period to kind of think about what to do next with that as a reflection, or like the example Alyssa gave about bringing color. How do you want to integrate that? Maybe you don't. Maybe the intention is just for the trip. But if you do and you've been clear, then you really have something to build on.
Yeah, absolutely. Something we talk a lot about in the Travel Coach Network is, the more intentional you can be with your travel experiences, the better decisions you can make, and that can lead to the better outcomes. Really reaching those goals that why we travel in the first place for every single time we take a trip, right? We're always looking for something different. Dr. Sika, going into diving deeper into the mental well-being of travel, benefits of travel, how can travel support recovery from things like burnout, anxiety, or even depression?
Very good question, by the way. Burnout is something everyone is talking about, and the mental health clinics are the oldest one are located in Europe with traditions, and they're combining natural healing resources and medicine. What we are saying is that we should really use the advantages of the nature around us because, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we could hear you before. Now you're on mute.
Yeah. So combining the spa medicine with traditional medicine, first is saving costs in the healthcare budget because €1 investment in the healthcare budget is €1 investment in prevention is saving €7 from the healthcare budget. So when people are traveling, looking for mental health or burnout programs, the topic in Europe is the longevity. Longevity clinic are the one, or psychomatic clinic in Germany that are offering that one product. But last 15, 20 years, here I see Claudia Wagner from Germany, FitRise, and she can support me. In many resorts, centers focusing on the women's well-being with mental health problematic or management with mental health problematic were opened. So here the problem is coming when we are talking about payment, because for me, healthcare budgets are not enough covering prevention and prophylaxis. They're covering just the part when you are in the hospital. So for us, our goal is to integrate that topic in the healthcare philosophy, starting from the World Health Organization, going through the European Commission in Europe, governments, because our assets, the nature in all of the countries, I see people from all around the globe here, even in Bhutan, I know you have wonderful nature, but this nature is not for free. And I mean, people should have really special programs that are supporting their mental health, treatment, prophylaxis, rehabilitation, using the insurances. There is some problem maybe with my photo. Now it's fine. So that's my answer. And if you allow Mrs. Wagner, Claudia, she's an expert from Germany. She can just, Claudia, can you hear us? I saw her on the video, but maybe later on she can give her expert opinion.
Perfect. Thank you. And as we know, travel is one of the most powerful aspects of travel is that it can shift our perspective. Many of us can often think of a trip that changed how we see the world or how we even see ourselves. So Jake, I'm going to throw it on over to you. What is it about travel that creates those moments of transformation?
I appreciate that. Travel is transformation. So, I think that travel has inherently been about that. It is, all the things that we all know and hear all the time, right? Getting out of the comfort zone, challenging yourself, bringing more intention. But I think that, when you're getting into transformation and designing for it as a travel company or hotelier, going back into that psychology and better understanding, when someone travels, it's really a series of connections and relationships, connection and relationship with yourself, your own perceptions and perspectives, it's also a connection and relationship with others. And, how do you better understand your own identity and your bias, any sort of xenophobia that you may have or fear that you may have, right? Stereotypes, and then connection and relationships with systems and stewardship. What is your relationship with the systems that you're participating in at home and when you travel? And bringing those to the surface so you can deepen these connections, evolve your relationships, identify and connect with who you are and who you're trying to become. So when you go through a travel experience, you're able to, you're able to identify, what is it that makes me feel alive? What have I learned? And what is it that I want to perhaps integrate when I return home, so I can embody and really become the best version of myself. And that has a tendency, when you come back and you're a better version of yourself, you're a better parent, you're a better friend, you're a better member of your community, you're a better, global citizen. And so that's the opportunity that I think traveling for transformation provides us. It's this intersection of being sort of rooted in values and being values driven, and how that creates value for organizations that want to step into this space in a meaningful way.
Yeah, it's really about that self-reflection on what did this trip teach me? Who was I during this trip, and who have I become after? And how can I take what I've learned and experienced and the conversations I've had and the stories I heard, and apply that to my life. So that post-trip integration, I know you talk a lot about that, Jake, is so crucial if you guys are in run a travel business here. And Dorji, my question for you is, what differentiates a meaningful transformation from just having a temporary emotional high during travel?
Yeah, so I think the main difference would be a temporary transformation would be, I think you would experience if your travel has not been really designed. I mean, if it is a normal kind of a tour packages that you are in, then maybe I think that will give you just a temporary kind of a transformation. But if your travel has been designed in such a way that, I mean, this is what we are actually trying to promote. If you want to really travel to be beneficial, to travel that will contribute towards your well-being, then I think the travel has to be really designed, intentionally designed, and which will definitely lead into a kind of a permanent transformation. Like for instance, what here actually it would also go beyond designing the travel package itself. So in other words, even the destination that you choose, yeah, I think that will also make the impact on the level or the permanency of the transformation that will experience. Now, so therefore, it will be important where you are going. So if a system, basically what I'm trying to say is now we have to be also going from not only mindfully design, intentionally design travel. I mean, that is one part. Now I think we need to also go and see and design a system, a destination. A destination also has to be designed in such a way that when a traveler is in that area, by design itself, the visitor or the traveler will get that kind of a transformation, and which will be long lasting and impactful. Basically, as Jake was also earlier saying, is about the travel with the design, and also the destination will give you such an impact that it will help to understand yourself more as an individual. And it's all about self reflection, and then also how to connect with the experiences that you get, and that will lead into kind of a permanent transformation that you would like to have. I mean, basically a positive transformation. Of course, maybe some, if it's not designed properly, then maybe it will also lead into a negative kind of a transformation, which of course we don't want. This, when you talk about well-being, I think we are talking about a positive transformation here. So my conclusion is not only about designing the travel itself. I think we also need to think about the destination, the mindful system that is being taken care in the destination that you are visiting. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dorji. That kind of leads into Tara, a bit of the work that you do with conscious travel. Can you expand upon that? And where does the destination come into play when creating these more intentional, meaningful experiences for travelers?
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with what Georgie's saying about destinations can really kind of tap into some of the cultural assets that they have available and turn that into an invitation, for people to be able to embrace different aspects of the culture and see how they can meet that with curiosity and how that might, connect with them or resonate with them in a way that is, of course, authentic. And again, I think it starts with some invitation on the part of the destination or the host, and a curiosity that's coming from the guests that really will approach us with an open mind, because they can be very uncomfortable It can moving out of your comfort zone, of course, requires navigating in a different way. When the way that we plan trips, we're focusing on a particular region. So the idea is rather than, kind of hopscotching your way across the country, you're really staying focused on one specific region, one destination, so that creative view can see a little bit wider. You can have a little bit wider lens. You can go a little bit deeper and noticing some of the nuance of things, some of the ideas that may be totally new, maybe, feeling a little bit out of comfort, a few days of that, and you start to be a bit more at ease and then open up more and more. That's the logic behind it, is that, the more you allow yourself to sit in that place as a beginner, in that novelty, that you can kind of ease in and relax, right? And let go a little bit. And then more of it will become available to you. That's the philosophy that we try to embrace, and understanding that, yeah, it's going to be comfortable. And the more that you have an inviting host that will help you put yourself at ease, and then, the better chance I think you have of meeting that opportunity and finding something really meaningful.
Yeah, that reminds me kind of just the power of spontaneity as well, and how important that is in having these more intentional um, transformative. I try not to use the overly use the word transformation or transformative travel, but it's just more meaningful like, travel experiences that have a greater chance of leading to better, more impactful outcomes for us, and really aligning with the feelings that we're seeking in the first place. So, throwing it over to you, Alyssa, how can we balance planning with planning trips, like the creating the itineraries and making sure that we do everything that we want to do on our to-do list, but with spontaneity in a more mindful way?
That's kind of how I named my business Solo Girl Wanders. My favorite part of travel is to set an intention and then let it unfold. Most of the time, the way I see people planning is morning to night, and then they're burnt out and they're tired at the end. And so I think there's an element of, if you're, this whole talk about our brain and being open to the novelty or the uniqueness, is that sometimes that's really hard for us. So we don't even know what we're even looking for when we have an intention. So my intention is, to feel a certain way, but then I structure something the way that I would have structured it back home. So I really do believe that there has to be a balance, as what you just said, between structure, which usually calms the nervous system, gives us a sense of safety in our body and safety of where we're at. So for example, some of the things I coach people to do is, maybe if it's a brand new place for you and you're already really nervous and scared, have someone meet you at the airport with your name on a sign to welcome you. That will calm you. But then maybe you build in chunks of periods of time throughout the trip where you do allow yourself to wander, look up, pause, drink a coffee at a cafe or whatever that looks like, to give you a chance for your brain to take in some of that newness. And I think it also goes to some of the comforts people crave, right? So it's like, I love going to really off the beaten path places that it might be a struggle to even get to. And I also travel with earplugs and a sound machine. So it's like finding that balance between what will push you out of your comfort zone and what will give you some of that feeling of safety and comfort. And to me, that's where then I really do believe the well-being can happen, because our body feels safe enough to slowly relax, like Tara was saying.
Yeah.
Hey, Sahara, can I jump in
Yeah,
on that really quick?
of course.
I think Alyssa is spot on, and I think that, as travel designers, we have this tendency just to fill itineraries, and it's become a checklist, right? It's about doing, and I think that what she's leaning into here is just ways of being, right? How can you really sort of root yourself in the ways of being, create the space and grace for that flow and that wander and that mystery, but then, tying in the work that you do, Sahara, people need guidance and coaching, right? Like that's really, really critical to help those travelers shift into, I'm going to see and do as much as I possibly can when I'm on the road, into a different mindset, one that really is rooted in ways of being that really nurture you along that journey in a way that provides much more depth and authenticity and connection.
Yeah, like you said, it's really about shifting that mindset. I mean, travel's been around for, centuries in the tourism industry, and it's been kind of set in its ways on how we do things, how things are planned, how things are booked, how we view, how we talk about travel. But all of you are here today because you believe in this greater movement that travel is more powerful than just taking a vacation and just getting away for a little bit. It really can be this incredible tool for our lives, for what meeting us in wherever we are in our lives at different times. And so that's why this panel of experts today, you guys have such unique perspectives and such in-depth expertise on, what it is that you believe in about travel. So Dr. Sika, what does a well-being centered travel experience look like to you?
Good question. Depends on the area where you are located. When we are talking about well-being, again, I will say that in Europe, we use much more the word longevity. So what is longevity about? The longevity has 5 pillars. First pillar is connected with medical checkups, genetic checkups. Second pillar is connected with nutrition, healthy food. Third pillar is connected with spa, beauty. Fourth pillar is connected with activity, with sport, fitness. And the fifth pillar is connected with burnout and sleep disorders, management, and treatment. So, talking about, of course, well-being, longevity in Europe, we are saying, I'll say that this is the trend, especially after COVID, because the COVID era was the era that made possible the people to rediscover again the benefits of the well-being traveling, or not traveling just for let's say visiting cities, but everyone is looking for some benefit for the healthcare, because people really need it. The well-being to be healthy aging means that you should invest from the certain age in each stage of your life in your healthcare. And again, I will focus here my speech and it is my message that we should really do care about combination between the nature, the given from the gut natural healing resources we have all around the globe, and the medicine. And all of you, you have your contacts, you have your customers. Just teach them that they should really try to, when they're in a climatic area, they should use the benefits of the healing forests, for example. For some people, the healing forest is just given as a granted, but in fact, this is an asset. Unfortunately, this asset is not still very well implemented in the healthcare strategy of the governments. So this is my answer of your question. I'm not a person expert in the details when you're doing the packaging. So there are many more experts. My role and our focus is first to present the evidence-based on a scientific base. We have in the European Spa Association e-library, and we will soon open, Dr. Reza knows, scientific journal where everyone can publish the newest researches related to the spa medicine and impact over the economy.
Thank you for that. Well, we look forward to having you share that resource once it's ready. It's really fascinating the amount of data that's out there, research, case studies on not only the mental well-being benefits of travel, but the social, the emotional, the physical, the overall well-being. So I really encourage all of you after today's event to find whatever it is that you represent within your company, your business, or the journeys that you provide your clients with, to do some of that research, pull out some of that really great information as pillars of support. We know that travel can be a really powerful tool for obviously human connection and connection within our own selves, but also clarity and renewal. So Sonia, how can travelers or the industry start thinking in terms of outcomes like clarity, connection, or renewal?
Yeah, good question. I think some of the has been already said. I think setting intentions is key. for helping travelers to achieve their aspirations and outcomes like clarity, connection renewal. So having this preparation before the trip to set intentions, to listen to the traveler, but also what will happen after. So when they come back from this trip, how they can implement this into their lives, because otherwise it's going to be temporary. So how we can support them. The trip does not finish when the trip is over, how we can support them to actually bring them into their lives so they can improve their life situation as well. So this before, during, and after that we've been discussing here is a good way to start, but also during the trip, how they can engage, how they can slow down, how they can be present. So there is many ways, that we can help them to achieve their outcomes.
Yeah, I love that you brought up being present within it. So, Dorji, what does mindfulness within travel even mean?
Yeah, I think in a sense, I think that should be the main thing when you talk about travel for mental well-being is, because when you talk about mindfulness, it's basically trying to uh, understand not only yourself but also the environment, the situation that you are in, both the place and the space. So I would say mindfulness is everything when you talk about travel for mental well-being. And also I like to go a step further in this. Now, when we talk about travel as a mental well-being, we are not just talking about an individual as a traveler. So if we are talking about a holistic mindfulness tourism or travel, then we are also talking about bringing transformation, a positive transformation, first at the individual level, you as a visitor, then at the community level, whether it is the destination or the community that traveler belongs to. And then from there, you upgrade it into a nation level. I mean, for example, when I'm talking about Bhutan, so we are talking about a Bhutan level. And then ultimately, this will connect to the global level. So when we talk about this mindfulness travel, then we are really talking about connecting of these four levels, from individual traveler to community to nation to the global. And that actually what I'm trying to say is basically this is what we are trying to follow when we talk about this high value, low volume tourism that Bhutan has been practicing for last, you can say, for 50 years. Yeah.
And Dorji, another question for you is, can travel itself be a form of meditation?
Oh, yes, yes. I mean, absolutely. I mean, uh, in fact, I mean, I feel very strongly about this. So when you are into this really kind of a intentionally designed kind of a travel, then it uh, is a meditation in itself. So when you talk about mindfulness, in other words, you are also talking about meditation. So yes, definitely yes. I mean, yeah, just to answer your question straight away, yes.
Wonderful. And I know, Dr. Sika, you're going to hop off soon, but anything that you lastly want to share with our attendees today?
So first of all, I'm first time in this platform, and for me it was interesting to hear the opinion of those experts in the travel industry. As I mentioned, our role is more to lobby, to work on a governmental, European, international level for our industry, the healthcare industry, the health tourism industry. We named well-being in Europe again differently sometimes. So health tourism is the future. If a destination would like to build a sustainable tourism product, health tourism is the answer. And when we are talking about health tourism, according to the Trant Committee, health tourism has three pillars: medical tourism, spa tourism, and wellness tourism. It's according to the European understanding. So I would like to wish all of you stay healthy, follow the well-being trends, and put more energy and inspiration in your work, because this is the moment when we should really be visible from more and more people in this world. So thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all of your expertise with us, Dr. Sika. We've dropped, Reza has dropped your bio and your information, but please feel free to drop anything else in the chat that you would like our attendees to know about, okay? So we're going to move on into social connection. We know that travel is something that's deeply personal, but it also has a really strong social dimension. Human connection is something that we need now in our lives in the world more than ever before. But travel can also be a form for many people of loneliness, of fear. So, Jake, how can travel be a source of giving people a sense of belonging, whether it's internal or within a community?
Yeah, we are absolutely in this epidemic of loneliness. We have a meaning crisis. Most of us lack a lot of us lack a sense of purpose or being purposeful in our lives. And travel is this really beautiful opportunity to explore different parts of who you are. Explore maybe personalities, right? We all wear different hats in different relationships in our lives, and so when we're travel and we open up to others and other perspectives, when we really start to see the world through someone else's eyes, like what is it like to be in your shoes? You have this opportunity to sort of ground yourself in the interconnectedness that bonds us all, right? And I think that that's probably the biggest gift that travel and tourism gives us, is that greater sense of belonging, which leads to a greater sense of meaning, which can open up identify new ways that you can apply yourself in your life with a sense of purpose. But until you have that more expansive worldview, until you realize that there is not really a right and wrong. There's just different views and different ways of experiencing your life. And not until you do that can you really start to open up on your own healing journey, right? And so travel, just that single opportunity to see through someone else's eyes, I think is a game changer, right? And such a beautiful opportunity, and one that I think, as we said, travel and tourism professionals need to take real responsibility for. We are the ambassadors of those experiences that change and drive us and help us become better global citizens. But it is currently not in that dynamic. But thanks to a lot of the folks on this in this call, we are seeing this shift.
Yeah, and intention and purpose is key within that, especially as travel designers, travel business owners, experience providers. So Tara, how can travel experiences be designed to foster genuine connection instead of just surface level interaction?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it can be a bit overwhelming at times, for people. So even thinking of just the smallest invitation to experience something new. And I think Jake said it beautifully with really in the best case scenario, people can take a really deep, powerful, new meaning, new perspective away. But even just as an example, look at something very small, like the exposure to maybe a different type of I don't know, let's say ritual, So look at the ritual of like having coffee. If you're in Italy and you're having coffee, you maybe sit down with your espresso at a table. And even though you can, drink it in 30 seconds, you sit down for 10 or 15 minutes and enjoy, and you don't have your phone and you're watching the world go by. And the ritual of drinking tea in Japan, or these kinds of things, they can really be introduced to travelers as an invitation, as kind of an expression of, hey, let's put you with a local guide. They're going to show you this fun, coffee ritual. Sit down, they'll explain how things work. But what that is that exposure, I think, is an invitation to do something different with your own life. I work with a lot of American-based travelers who are used to having a, giant 20-ounce mug of their coffee that they carry around with them all day long in a very automatic multitasking kind of way. They're not even present that they have coffee or that they're drinking it or that it's empty or that it's full. It's just, affixed to their hand. So when you're exposed to something that could be very small, you can take home this idea of having permission of I can just sit and drink my coffee and not do anything else. And I really appreciated that about where I went, or I really enjoyed, being exposed to that and having someone introduce you to these things, I think can create these little small moments where we can take home a different way, of kind of going about the regular things that are already incorporated into our lives. But if you don't have a proper introduction to that, you can certainly be very astute and kind of watching and picking up. But having someone sit down and explain and show this to you, I think makes it just all the more meaningful. And it creates a dialogue and you can have a back and forth, and you never know where those kind of conversations are going to lead. I have a lot of travelers that say some of the best experiences they had were chatting back and forth with their drivers, where, these people are not necessarily professional tour guides, but they're just open and willing to share what's going on with their life, and exchange takes place. And so having this kind of philosophy when you travel, and whether you're a travel professional and you're putting these things together with intention, or it's a serendipitous thing that happens, but by meeting people on your journeys and having an idea that you want to have an even, exchange with them, that you don't see them as someone who's just there to provide you a service, but who's someone that can, be a welcoming host and help introduce you to things, coming with that kind of respect and curiosity. It can open a lot of different doors for small little moments of change, or something like Jake was talking about that's really deep and profound and potentially life-changing.
As humans, we are curious by nature, right? And that's one of the reasons why we travel. We are curious of what else is out there, who else is out there, other ways of living, other sites to see, other things to do, other experiences to have. So, Alyssa, how can we encourage travelers to be more curious? And I think being by encouraging them to be more curious, and having them ask questions and interact with people different from them, despite whether they speak the language or fully understand the culture. I think those could lead to moments of real impact and storytelling and transformation as well, and connection, of course. But how can we get people to become more curious when they travel?
I just wrote a blog post about this. So it's funny you asked. The two things that pop up in my head around this. One is maybe the reason that I talk to a lot of solo travelers, and I is because they, when they're surrounded by people they know, everyone knows us as a certain type of a person, right? And so when we do something different, people in our lives will say, well, that's not like you. Well, that's not like you, or that's not like you. And one of the things people love about solo travel, or just even, stepping out of their comfort zone in any way, is that there's no preconceived notions of who they are. And so what I have seen sometimes, even in my group trips of women coming solo, but not fully alone, is that they get to try on some new identities. And so the people that say, I'm always the introvert, actually does show up in some of these experiences with more curiosity, asking questions, doing something that's fully out of their comfort zone. And so one of the things I love people asking is the question, why? And not from a challenging a perspective, but from a place of, I want to understand a little bit more, because sometimes I've never asked myself why I do the things I do. And so if I can ask in other cultures why, not only do I expand myself, but then I might even have to be challenging my own preconceived notions and biases about why I thought it should have been A, but this person is telling me it's B. And again, that starts to reshape the person's identity themselves. So I think it's a two-way street that starts to happen. One, not having their preconceived hats on of who they are, and two, being curious with the question why, or even just, can you tell me more about that? I think are two really simple questions that can take the conversation in a lot of directions, that creates more, like, again, this element of wandering. This creates more curiosity, and maybe be open to some of the things that could unfold from those questions, such as a change in yourself.
Yeah, and that's really powerful for the pre and during the trip. So, Sonia, we mentioned it several times here talking about the importance of the post-trip integration. How can someone who has a travel business integrate that into um, working with their clients, and what are the benefits of that?
Yeah, the post trip is a part of this lasting transformation if we want really to help the person to cross this bridge from who they are, who they want to be. So I believe as travel professionals is also our support is very important because when we are talking about this kind of big changes, it's not easy to do it on our own. If we have thought about changes we try to do, even if it's like, I don't know, quitting smoking or losing weight or any of these big changes, we usually need someone to help us. And as travel professionals, we are in this position to support our travelers, our clients to do that by actually continuing this conversation. So it's not only the preparation on the trip, but also after, sitting with them. You can do it, you can have different methodologies. You can use, coaching sessions, you can do phone calls, you can do emails, surveys to measure as well the change is also interesting, but how we can continue this conversation to make sure there is this time for reflection, which we don't always, most of the times we don't have, because when people come back from their trips or their travels, usually they go back to their, jobs or meetings or emails as soon as they can, because they tend to have the trip until the last minute. They have holiday. So they, go back to their normal daily routine, and then if they don't do anything, if they don't sit and have the time to reflect about the insights they had or how this trip impact them, the conversations they had, the people they met, and how this can help in their life moving forward to become this, better version of themselves or achieve their aspirations. Sooner than later, the trip will be just a faraway memory. And I think using this motivation, when somebody comes back from the trip, they are all fired up and motivated. So use that. Don't let it fade away by going back to routine, but actually use that to guide this, your traveler to achieve lasting change. And the time of reflection is important. So if you put time in the calendar with the traveler, they will make time for it, because sometimes we need this accountability from the outside, because life gets in the way very easy. So have this accountability from the professional is important to set for the reflections, but also help them with a plan of action, because without implementation, without action, nothing will change. You can talk about all that you want and reflect all that you want, but eventually you need to take action and you need to implement. And again, it can be scary. So having the coach at the other side or the travel professional at the other side is important to help them cross this bridge. So there is more than just the preparation and the trip itself, but also how we can help them. The most important part for me, the real transformation starts after, when we are, demonstrating it in real life, because otherwise it would be just information or not
Right.
real change.
I love that you just said the transformation really truly happens after the trip. Oftentimes we think about travel, taking a trip, we're done, and now we have anticipation till the next trip, and we go back to our old ways and mindsets. But I think that's why we're here today talking about how we can intentionally take what it is that we've experienced and learned and loved about our travel experiences and apply it to who we are, our relationships, our work life, our personal lives, and our well-being. As we come towards the end here, we already talked about the psychology of travel, mindfulness, designing travel experiences that support emotional well-being, social connection, and belonging. Jake, any final thoughts on the connection of using travel as a powerful tool for boosting our mental well-being that you want to share with our audience today?
Hmm. Yeah, I think as a culture, we tend to address issues, problems, challenges, lack of meaning, lack of purpose, anxiety, depression. These are symptoms, and we address them through the SSRs, right? Anti-anxiety meds, anti-depression meds, which can be a really powerful catalyst in someone's healing journey. In travel and travel experiences and the opportunity that we have, is not, I'm going to make a little bit of a leap here into like what's coming up around plant medicine right now, right? And the opportunity that is for people to heal, but if you look at that and what's happening, the neuroplasticity that is part of our makeup as human beings, sometimes needs to be opened up and expanded, right? And plant medicine is offering that. But when you look at travel and tourism and travel experiences, the same ingredients exist, right? We get out of our comfort zone, we feel more alive, we release the feel-good hormones, serotonin and dopamine and oxytocin. We feel more alive. So that same journey is happening, within travel that allows us to heal. Now, I think being proactive, right? So you're not addressing the symptoms. Travel is an opportunity for people to really root into their well-being, so they don't end up needing to address, some of these issues and address the symptoms with our traditional SSRIs, et cetera. So that I think is where travel is uniquely positioned, if it's able to step into its potential, to really play an important role in our society in keeping people out of the depths of despair, right, and delusion and discourse. So yeah, that's my thought on that.
Yeah, I love that. I agree with all of that you just said there. And Georgie, any final comments about today's topics or using travel as a tool for boosting our mental well-being?
Yeah, yeah, I think, thank you very much. Yeah, from my side, I think I would like to highlight that, especially for travel for mental well-being or travel for transformation, I think there has to be a kind of a paradigm shift in the way we think about or organize travel, and which, if I may say, like in Bhutan, we are in a way already implementing that. So we are here mainly talking about from volume to value actually. So we are not really chasing the at the national level, at the country level, as a tourism policy, we are not really going after the number, because we know most, I think, they chase about numbers. So therefore, and if you go by that road, then of course the objective that we are discussing on this webinar, it will be not really met. So to do this, to pursue well-being, transformation, all mindfulness, then I think we have to make this shift from volume to value, meaning we have to be mindful, like how many visitors a nation should or destination should accept. So there has to be some kind of a regulation. So yeah, so basically I'm talking about a shift that we might have to consider from volume to value. Basically, I'm talking about high value, low volume. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sonia, any final thoughts?
I just was reading in the chat, somebody was mentioning about the FOMO, how we can address that. And I think it's also important as travel professionals to help, understand that when we are making travel more meaningful, it's not about all the things we can see and all the check boxes we can tick and all the places we can take pictures or visit. It's more about going deeper rather than quantity is quality, and spending time in less things but deeper. So I think this is also important that we consider, we keep in mind.
And then Sonia, do you also want to say aloud how people can find, follow, learn more about you? And then I'll go back to Georgie and Jake too.
Sure. So you can connect me on LinkedIn. Sonia Cruz Oro, I think, is the best way to find me. Also, my website is travelawakens.com. So I'm always open to conversations about travel, transformation, and healing.
Perfect. And then Georgie, do you want to remind everyone how they can learn more about you and what you're doing?
Oh, yes, I'm also on LinkedIn. My name Dorji Tradul. Yes, so we can get connected on that LinkedIn. Yeah.
Perfect. And Jake.
Yeah, transformational.travel. Email is jake@transformational.travel. And yeah, absolutely excited to engage. We just launched a program with the University of South Carolina on this topic. And then I'm also always open to private consulting opportunities with hotels and travel companies, destinations that are interested in moving into this space.
Amazing. Alyssa, any final thoughts on today's topic and how can people follow you?
Yeah, so based on a couple of the comments in the chat and just being really mindful of the world right now, especially, I want to honor that not everybody has the luxury of being able to leave their place of residence, of their towns, their cities, their countries. And so one of the things I want to just challenge us to consider too is how can we travel within our own locations, something even small, like working with a customer right now on like going to have a meal by herself, and what does that feel like and look like, and how do I set an intention, and really everything we're talked about today on a really small microcosm. And so I just want to be mindful of like sometimes the privilege that we forget about when it comes to travel too, that we can take this on really micro levels to start with as well. People can find me in sologirlwanders.com, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of those places as well. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for bringing that up, because that is so true, and it's something that we teach you guys I say you guys because Alyssa, you came from the TCN, and Sonia in the Travel Coach Network, is that what I call these elements of travel. So things we talked about today, like human connection, like sense of belonging, like getting out of your comfort zone and changing environments and spending time in nature, all these things that can benefit us and our well-being, doesn't mean we have to go on a plane and go abroad. We're not always trying to convince people to travel far and travel all the time. Travel can be what we That's why it's so important for you guys as travel business owners to figure out what is it that I am telling people is so beneficial about a travel experience or travel itself. Can they take those aspects of it and apply it in smaller doses, whether that is, like you said, within your own community, even within your own household, changing up your environment, you're trying a new restaurant, or engaging with your community and volunteering and giving back in a certain way. There's different ways that we can take what it is that we believe in so deeply and how powerful travel is, and apply it to our clients' lives and our own lives in different ways as well, without always having to go far, especially during really tough times like this right now. And then Tara, any final thoughts about today's topic, and how can everyone find and learn more about you?
Yeah, I think I would just say that I think for a lot of people, there's an opportunity in travel to really find that sense of kind of safety and groundedness within yourself when you're thrown into a different environment, when you're not at home, when you're not among, what's familiar, and you can still find some kind of a, inner strength and comfort. And I really think that one of the best takeaways we can come back from any kind of experience, whether you're putting yourself out there into something that's a camping trip close by, or going to a new neighborhood, or going far away, is just this sense of internal groundedness and safety within yourself. And all of the things Jake was talking about that people are struggling with, mental health, and the just the real overwhelming nature of the things that we're kind of dealing with as a human society right now, to be able to have ways to practice and integrate these tools of feeling safe and grounded with yourself, no matter where you are, I think is hugely, hugely valuable and important. Um, and I would also add, I think that so much of this has to start with people having autonomy over their own decision making, and releasing the pressure, whether that be from media or friends or family, and say, I'm taking a trip with this intention to this place, and this is what I want to do. And really feeling, that they don't have to have the all of those other voices, that they can really just listen to themselves and what they want to get from it, because if that doesn't happen, then the rest of the things can't follow. It's very easy to get pulled off track. And so to use your travel as a sacred space, for whatever it is that you're looking to get, and stay on that path and go and get it. And people can find me at conscioustravelcollective.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. I am on Instagram, but not very often. But if you write me, I'll write you back.
Thank you so much. And if anyone is interested in learning more about the Travel Coach Network, you can visit us at thetravelcoachnetwork.com, or find the Travel Coach Network across all of our social platforms. Remember, everyone, that travel is not just about where we go, but why we go. When approached intentionally, travel has the potential to support not just rest, but real transformation, connection, and long-term well-being. Thank you so much to all of our panelists today for such a rich conversation. And thank you so much, everyone who is joined us live, everyone watching the replay as well. I know you guys come from all over the world and there's all different time zones, so we appreciate you being here. And we hope this leaves you thinking differently about how travel can be experienced and how it can be designed moving forward. So stay tuned for more events like this with the TCN and the Institute of Tourism. Reza?
Thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you all the speakers. It was really amazing and wonderful. I learned a lot personally, so it was really good. Before we leave, maybe we can see if there are some questions or other speakers that want to add some comments. Please, everybody unmute yourself. So yeah, if anybody has a question, just please speak. So any questions?
I know there's a lot of conversation and a lot of questions in
Yeah,
there.
it is. Yeah. So
Hi
Morris,
there.
you had a question?
Yes, I am specifically working on doing wellness retreats in Ghana, where I am based. Um, so I would like to connect with some of you to see how perhaps we can coordinate something together. And I'm particularly working on a mental health retreat for December. I just did a Vipassana silent meditation last December, and that was great. But similarly, I'd like to incorporate travel into some of these for destination wellness retreats. So I'll definitely be connecting with some of you. I'll reach out to you on LinkedIn. I am Morris Sinclair on LinkedIn if you'd like to look for me. I can put my URL in the chat if you don't mind.
Yes, please do. Are the record of the session? Yes, this is being recorded and it's going to be made available as of tomorrow, right, Reza, on the
that's
Institute of
right.
Tourism's website, and it will stay there.
Yeah.
Any other
Hey
questions?
there. I have a question. This is Mona, and I'm here in Jordan. And we're talking about mental health and travel. I mean, we're in the midst of a war in the region. What's your take, any one of the panelists, on travel for transformation and education? In this region in the Middle East, it's all about understanding the why. I would love to hear anybody's feedback on, travel post conflict, post chaos, and the importance of travel and easing the mind. We're in a region with thousands of people, and we're all being affected.
Yeah, does anyone want to take that?
Speak just a
Jake, I'd
little
love to
bit.
hear.
Oh,
Jake,
ahead,
I'd love
Jake.
to hear your opinion.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I mean it's really unfortunate and unfathomable what's happening out there, and I think that travel's always been probably our best catalyst to growth, expansion, education, so I think, when you look at it through the lens of why and how we travel rather than where and what, then we're really starting to unleash travel's potential, its superpowers, if you will. And then it becomes a movement, a shift from one state of being to another, right? So whether you're in pain or healing or struggling with mental health or contemplating, some sort of existential question, a more intentional and conscious travel paradigm allows us to navigate, some pretty, what can be pretty rough waters, right? And try to reconcile and try to come to a place of peace. So at least you can find peace within, at least you can participate and show up in your own life with love and care, stewardship and peace, even when we're surrounded by such horrific events and crimes that transcend my ability to understand.
Thank you. That was very powerful. I appreciate that.
If I
Thanks.
may add also something, I've been in many conflict zones in my life. I think because the conflicts are made by the humans, so it feels good if you just take distance from the rest of the world, let's say the humans, and try to go to nature. I think in the conflict areas or conflict zones, or when you are really tired of all those wars and the politics, and going and walking to in the forest, for example, or nature, that's where we belong to actually, and it really gives you a good feeling.
Mhm.
Thanks, Rosa. That's a very good point. It is started by humans, you know.
It is.
Yeah, and there is a lot of power in the power of blue and green spaces as well. Alyssa, did you want to add something to that question?
There's just two things, but I see Constantine and Heidi mentioned a little bit. My background's in social work and psychology, and by the way, Jordan is one of my favorite countries to visit. So my heart. I was just gonna say that I'm finding a lot, like with my network of therapists and professionals and mental health practitioners, doing a lot of co-work together of travel and trauma recovery, right? And I think that's actually really interesting because I think when we talk about travel as like escapism, the trauma doesn't leave us, right? We have that expression, there you go and there you are. Like wherever you go, you hold that inner stuff. And so I think there is going to be a big resurgence of this idea of how do we marry trauma recovery and the research we have around it, as well as this idea of transformative travel with intention. But I think they really do go together. So I'm really hoping it makes its way throughout the world for this period of time for sure.
Yeah, I
Great,
love
great.
that you
Thank you.
bring that up. I've seen several of our travel coaches starting to dabble into that, combining the both of that because it's something that they used for themselves too. Dr. Evelyn, did you have a comment or question?
Yes, my name is actually Natalie Kelly, Evelyn, Dr.
Sorry,
Evelyn.
I just see the beginning.
That's okay. I wanted to say this. First of all, I have traveled the world and have been to many of those places with conflicts. And I wanted to say that to understand that it's the leadership and the issues, it's not the people. And I always tell people because people will say, "Oh my gosh, I was in Tunisia during the spring, the Arab Spring." And, to understand it's not about the individuals and the people. And I enjoyed it. And I will go again. Now, I wouldn't go during the Arab Spring, but I would go again. But it's because of the leadership. And as long as you understand that you don't fault the people in those countries, it's um, it is not them, and they want to be out of that more than you want them out of it. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention too. When you talk about travel and especially trauma, my day job, I do run Florida's behavioral health safety net system, so that's my day job. But my hobby is writing books about travel. And so I brought my two loves together, and we do a lot about how travel enhances mental wellness. So, gosh, thank you so much for this presentation. And I'd really love to know more about the Institute of Tourism. So I'd love to reach out and find out more about that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Neshka, am I saying that right?
Snezhka Victor. I'm based in Southampton in England, but I'm actually Croatian by birth, and obviously I would like to add into the conversation regarding post-war recovery and obviously finding way of regenerate afterwards. I am a sustainability consultant and Green Globe auditor, but also very active within SCAL International. And also it means responsible development is very much part of all the activity that I do. But you see, Croatia has obviously gone through hell and back, and obviously, it's not the only destination that has been in that situation. But in any case, when you're part of it, when you're actually living the conflict as well, then you know best how things can change for the better after all. And to shift a destination positively after war, travel must transition from crisis response to regenerative peace building. And I think this is probably the most profound application of travel as a tool for mental well-being as well, for the locals, for the destination itself as well. And obviously it facilitates the healing, both traveler and community. And obviously what I would highlight as what I found as particularly of interest and particularly important for the destination as well is the human-to-human stays, prioritizing guest houses, local homestays, allowing travelers as well to hear stories directly from survivors, from people who have lived it. Sometimes people say, oh, you don't want a living museum approach, but actually supporting the sites that also celebrate resilience and culture that survived it, I think that's really, really important. And if you're supporting local tour guides, if you're supporting local artisans and farmers, then obviously that means just supporting micro-entrepreneurship. It is a tangible way of maintaining stability and look forward to the future. So very much for making it an important part, having an inclusive supply chain as well. So yeah, there is much to be done after conflict. And my heart goes out to you. It shouldn't be happening, and I'm sorry that there is such a situation. But you are in our thoughts in any case. But anyway, I think there will be many stories to tell.
Thank you so much. Swayam?
Hello everyone. I would like to uh, uh, congratulate the Travel Coach Network and the Institute of Tourism for delivering such a wonderful webinar. So I have a question. Uh, which kind of tourism do you think should be prioritized the most for mindfulness? Sustainable tourism or regenerative tourism? What is your opinion regarding this matter? Thank you.
Great question. Does anyone want to take that?
Maybe Mr. Dorji, you can answer.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So, yeah, I mean, my understanding is these are not two different things, sustainable and regeneration. Actually, this is kind of in continuum. So, from sustainable tourism, now I think we are moving towards regeneration. So, but overall, I think the mindfulness tourism has to be cutting across this. So basically, to answer to Mr. Swine, I think my understanding is it's not a two different thing, but it is a continuum: sustainable regeneration, and then mindfulness will cut across.
Yeah, wonderful. Anyone else want to add to
Sir, for
that?
your insightful answer.
Yeah, I can jump in. I mean, I think regeneration is a big word, and I think it's widely misunderstood. And I guess there's different perspectives on what that might mean to you. But in terms of mindfulness, I think being mindful of who you are, having your own awareness, having your own understanding your identity, your own purpose, how you fit in, those things lead into regenerative system, regenerative thinking, and regenerative practice. And again, it goes back to what I was saying, with ways of being. I think if you're aligned and you're sort of in rhythm and flow in the system that you're participating in, using nature as a blueprint that's right in front of us, then I think you're mindful and regenerative can coexist.
I love that. Michael, did you have a question?
I think to answer also the question on regenerative practices, I think it's very important to have circularity in every process, and also not just to overemphasize on environmental, but also look at governance and social, because I heard a lot of issues right now in terms of workplace practices in the hospitality and also in every sector. I think that's why the younger generations are starting to what they call quiet quit. So maybe just to conclude is with a question: is like how can we create more, inclusive workplaces in the hospitality sector, despite the high demand and the high pressure environment that they are in? Yeah.
Thank you. And then Tara, did you want to say something off of the question about the conflict question that we had?
Yeah. Just thinking that, this particular conversation we're talking about the kind of alternative to travel as escapism and how that plays into our psychology and how we're showing up with, the approach that we take. But I think that it's also an element that the questions from Mona and Neshka have, tapped into, which is you can also have a form of escapism in terms of the topics that you're avoiding when you're traveling. If you're in a place that had been a conflict zone, like an example of Croatia, and you're not engaging with the stories of the recent history that's taken place there, then that is also a form of escapism with your travel, to try and keep yourself in this kind of protected bubble of the things that took place there. And so we may want to have a vacation that is built around a wellness type of activity or trip or something we're doing, and we're going to go on a retreat, and that's perfectly fine. But if you're going to go to a culturally immersive type of approach, then to leave out the things that are harder to maybe hear or witness is also a form of escapism. So I think it's really important to make sure that we're being intentional about using the opportunity when we travel to expose ourselves. And the only way that we can, as humanity, help prevent future conflict is when we're not afraid of each other and we know these stories and we have the, appreciation for everyone and where we're coming from, and we're not in these polarized sides. And that comes from being with people, hearing them stories, witnessing those things, even though it can be painful. So I think that's maybe another topic for another day about escapism, but it's important to mention that.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that as well. It's so true. It's such a unique perspective that you just gave. Does anyone else have any final questions or comments from the panel or for the panel before we close up today?
Just wanted to say thank you so much for arranging this fantastic webinar, as well as to all the speakers. Really insightful, and can't wait to connect with everyone and to hopefully another webinar like this following on.
Yes, definitely stay tuned for that. Yep. Reza, any final words?
No, thank you so much. Just to remind everybody, so the recording will be available from tomorrow, including the bio of all the speakers, so you can always find them. And in fact, you can contact them as well from their page. Thank you so much. And thank you especially to Sarah for preparing that so well. Thank you so much. So stay tuned for our next event. Thank you.
Thank you, Reza.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks
Sarah.
all the speakers.
Thank you.
Attending.
Thanks, Tara.
Thanks,
Thank
Reza.
you,
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Take
Thanks,
care.
Alyssa. Thanks, Sonia.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everybody.
Bye,
Dorji.
everyone.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.